In the next large section of the class, we are going to learn more about what goes on behind the supply curve. So we've talked about the supply and demand model, and that model had two components, the supply curve and the demand curve. Now we're going to really focus on the supply curve. After this, we will really focus on the demand curve. So we're going to start talking about firms' costs and how firms produce output using inputs, what firms can vary, and how these costs and decisions determine what firms are going to output. Then we're going to talk about a couple of different market structures. These are basically different types of, or different situations rather, where there are different numbers of firms sell different versus very similar products, and we're going to talk about what effects these have on our marketplace. We're going to start with a benchmark model called perfect competition. That is a situation where there are many firms and all of them are producing very similar goods. Now what's special about this case is that when we have perfect competition, our market is operating efficiently, so we have no deadweight loss. And this is really the situation we were talking about when we were talking about the supply and demand model. Then, after we develop this benchmark model, we're going to talk about some other situations where markets do not operate as efficiently. So, mainly in this case, we're going to be talking about situations where there are fewer firms, or firms are producing very different goods. When we have these situations, firms do not have as much competition, and we're going to see that there's going to be deadweight loss in these marketplaces. So one special case of this is monopoly, where there's one firm. We'll talk about that quite a bit. And then we'll talk about the most realistic model, which is called monopolistic competition. This is a situation where we have many firms, but each firm produces a slightly different good. So when you think about monopolistic competition, you can think about, for example, all of the different chain restaurants that line McGalliard Road. A lot of them are very similar to each other, but they produce different goods. And there are a lot of them. So stay tuned for that. And then again, after we finish talking about the supply curve, then we will move into talking about what goes on behind the demand curve.